Hello, I'm Marcus Cage, back here with Hebrew Apologetics. In this video, I guess I'll continue where I left off, talking about some of the things which led me down the path of being a Hebrew Israelite. After the election, because for those of you who are not familiar with me, for the last maybe couple of years, I've been pretty active in, and I guess, political commentary. And I have my own couple of shows. I have one, The Political Matrix, and the other one, What We've Been Thinking with Marcus Cage. And those shows are, for the most part, politics. And in doing my research for those shows, tracking down politicians, money ties, and things like that started to lead me to interesting connections and repetitive patterns. And so I decided to walk on the wild side for a minute and just look into some of what people say about the Illuminati. First it was just funny to mock it. But then when I started to actually do some research, if you look back to the original Illuminati, which for those who don't know, there was an actual Illuminati in Bavaria, I believe it was the late 1700s. They were involved in plenty of plots and, schemes against different governments and trying to send other governments to war and all kind of pandemonium and chaos. But they held these ancient traditions, which came from somewhere. And so I wanted to understand, okay, what happened with the whole thing with them? So you find out later on that they're completely exposed to, most of Europe, and they're expelled. And so instead of them ceasing to exist, what they do is they just go deeper underground and become more secretive. And as they start to branch out and start to break off into other groups, they start to infiltrate groups like many of the Masonic lodges. As they started to, as they started to merge into a lot of the Masonic lodges, that's when things started to get interesting. The ties between a lot of the family bloodlines of the wealthy people throughout Europe is very interconnected in ways I was completely unaware of. For example, a good part of the, I guess, royal families, even from modern day Scotland, England, let's see, Russia, Denmark, Spain, you name it, France, all of these countries all have relatives and are all related through people through Germany and like Ukrainian area. All of these people have ties through these different areas. And I just found it kind of interesting that all of the top people, they had that tie. And then I started to wonder, as the different royal families got deposed, what happened to them? That's a lot of wealth that I doubt that even if they were sieged, that all the wealth did get away into the hands of somebody. And what I started noticing is that some of these deposed royal families just started to move into owning corporations. And as they got patents on, like, for instance, There's literally a family that owns the patent on gunpowder. There's a family that owns the patent on neoprene. When you have patents like that, the amount of wealth and power that you have is immense. And especially if you have a lot of your relatives still in high positions to become clergy, possible priest, in some case, some were, to different prime ministers, to different presidents or secretaries of state or whatever. But through all different levels throughout our society, a lot of these former royal families' descendants are still walking around amongst us, and a lot of that money has traveled down on top of the money which was gained through the transatlantic slave trade, and not to mention the Silk Road slave trade and the South Saharan slave trade. So all of these families who control a lot of the major things which control this world, like George Carlin, said it so well. It's a big old club and you ain't in it. And it's true once you start seeing that literally the United States was bailed out by one man. And so if one man had that kind of wealth and his wealth was not taken away, and there were other people who had that kind of wealth, what happens to wealth when it sits in a bank? It accrues interest. So even if they're buying islands, the money is still accruing. And when I started to notice certain weird things that I was actually seeing on video, which I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty legit and pretty weird. I had to start, just humble myself down and accept that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And if some of these things are not true, what else might not be true, or what else might be that's hidden from me that I'm not seeing? And so as I try to think and keep more of an open mind, what I started to notice was that many things that I thought about and I knew about history, there were many blind spots and many holes. Like, for instance, nobody's ever concerned with why we don't know much about the Bronze Age. I mean, most people throughout most classes, or especially throughout throughout America, know nothing about that time period. And we let Hollywood dictate what we believe was going on during those time periods, when there's actual archaeology, actual like structures that you can see where people built these, where they were actually standing. There were societies living there. You can see where watering holes were, all kind of things where there were like little abodes built, some of them literally built into the sides of caves. So you can see people were actually living in these places. It says these people were living in. And you also know what the people look like in certain areas by looking at the archaeology, the pottery. And if you start going further and further and further back, like what blew my mind was when I started looking at the Russian iconoclasm. When I started looking at that stuff, I was like, this is very different than what Hollywood shows Egypt looks like. It also looks different for another group of people, which we'll go into later. But as I started going down that pathway, I ran across a certain video. And I guess it's easier if I just show you guys what I'm talking about. So Here you go. Check this out.
Hi, Shalom, Shalom from Israel. This is Ola, the daughter of Jethro. And I just heard that you black people that was stolen from Africa to America, that you don't know who you are. But you are the children of Yahweh, the children of Israel. And I'm telling you, you have to come back to your homeland, here to Zion, to Jerusalem. Because us, the Gentiles, we do need you. We need you to come and pray because you are our saviors. You're the one that was chosen by Yahweh to live in this land, not the Jewish people, it's you. You were stolen from Africa, they deceived you, they told you that you are slaves, but you actually the children of Israel. And it's time just to come back. Come for your people, come back for us, come back for the whole Gentiles, because only you gonna save us. So please come back to Zion. Come back to Zion.
Segregation, whites and blacks, minorities, from black Jews to light Jews to dark Jews.
Black Jews, black Jews, black Jews.
Yes.
So it's not just blacks, it's anti-Semitism he expresses, but he's Jewish.
Conversion. Personally, I like to think that the same people who think Chuck Norris is a great actor think Obama's the Antichrist. That's hilarious to me. But keep in mind, according to the book of Revelation, John saw Jesus and described him as having hair like wool and feet the color of burned brass. Yeah, he's a brother. It's going to be very awkward for the rapture folk when Jesus comes back and winds up being a homeless liberal black guy who speaks zero English. Now, I know this is very depressing, all you rapture Christians, but cheer up. The rapture may be a racket, but it's not the end of the world. That's Viewpoint for tonight. I want to thank my...
What I'm about to tell you is that the Israelites, the so-called Jews that are living in Israel today, are not the real Israelites. The real Israelites are the black and brown people of the world. What happened was when the black people that were the true Israelites and the brown people that were the true Hebrew Israelites fell from God's word as it is written, were cursed. So what happened was Rome came and sacked that land and they all fled. They went in all around the place, all around up north, south, east, west, but mostly down into Africa. They lived there for a little while in the wilderness until they were taken by slave ships to the Americas. The people that are in Israel today are converts. They come from Khazaria, which is southern Russia. They were visited by Hebrew Israelites at one time and learned from them. That's how they know all the customs. They can speak Hebrew and all that. They learned that. But they converted to Judaism. They are not true Hebrew Israelites.
And I just wanted to be talking about that Jesus was not white, he was a black man. And I know this is going to offend a lot of you racist Christians out there, man, but it's true, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie, white people are racist, man. Seriously, I was in that boat. I mean, white people are racist, but I'm not sticking up for, I'm not kissing butt here, but I'm just saying that Jesus was not white. He was a black man. He was a black man. I got proof to back this stuff up, man. And I'm just saying, man, I see white Jesus all over the churches, white Jesus all over the walls. And Jesus wasn't white, man. You preachers know that. You preachers know he wasn't white. You're afraid to stick up for the true Jesus Christ? Are you serious, man? What are you doing? You're just wasting your time, man. I mean, if you're not going to preach the true gospel, I mean, you might as well just sell your soul to Satan, man. You ain't fooling God. But anyways, I'm coming just to tell you people, man, that Jesus was not white, he was a black man. And a lot of people do not know this, man, because this is just a lie that's been going around. And I know preachers read this stuff, but they don't want to talk about how Jesus was black. They don't want to talk about how Jesus had a rejecting image. They don't want to talk about that. They want to make Jesus white. You can't make Jesus white. He wasn't white. You can't make Jesus white. You can't make Jesus Japanese. You can't make Jesus Chinese. You can't make Jesus Mexican. Jesus was black. He was black when he walked.
Hi everybody, my name is Daniel St. Germain. I'm going to do this real fast. My phone only gives me about 7 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the scripture first on 2 sets of Jews. The true chosen people of God from the beginning, and the imposters. Straight scripture, straightforward, right now. Get your pens ready. Everything I'm going to tell you in this little synopsis that I'm going to give you for the fake Jews. Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9. Those 2 last ones are going to mention, I know your troubles and those who say they are Jews but are not. But check all those scriptures after I give a synopsis. Believe no man. Now, to the real Hebrew Israelites. You're going to refer it to Deuteronomy 28:64-68. He is reprimanding and passing judgment on the Israelites for the wrongs that they did, and they did wrong, and they get their judgment, and they have suffered it. He sent them into ships, into bondage, scattered, so they would never know their land again, it says. That they will never know who their God is, and God shall turn his back on them. They never knew who they were. The Jews today happen to have heritage and they know who they are, but it violates everything that we're going to look at in your scriptures of Deuteronomy, Zechariah. These people who went by ship, when you read that in detail, it tells details of being raped, that they're borrowers, there will never be a lender. It gets into such great detail. There's only one race on the planet in the history of man this could be, and I'm not going to tell you.
Now, normally, I would, if I heard that coming out of the mouth of just a random black guy, I don't pay it much attention. But when I start hearing it from a lot of other people, which I don't understand why they would be saying that, I have to start digging and doing more research. And as I started doing more research, excuse me, I started looking into Hebrew Israelites. And one of the first ones I went to, I have to admit, it kind of threw me off a little bit. They were all loud and really screaming. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is, I don't get why they were talking about these people. Listen to them, what they're talking about. And so as I stopped listening to the tone and I start listening more to the words, it started to make a little bit more sense. So I was like, okay, let me go get my Bible. Let me start reading along with him to see what passages that they're talking about and see if it makes sense. And as I started to go into those different passages, everything that they were saying to me was checking out, 100% legit. And so I will try to share that in some upcoming videos, and some of the videos, some more videos like this, that even when I was like, I hear what this stuff is saying and this makes sense, but this just doesn't sound like this could be, maybe they got to have something wrong here. And so I will go into in future videos, more videos which I watch to kind of, I guess more people to kind of hear from more perspectives. And then I started listening to actual debates, instead of Hebrew Israelites just on the street corner. And when I started listening to debates with them and actual pastors, a lot of the pastors seemed to struggle, and started going into, tone, or, all kind of other things, which I felt like were deflections, instead of just dealing with what the scripture says. Either you agree with what the text says, or you don't agree with what the text says. And it's just that simple. And instead of deflecting all the way around and finding all these other excuses, and I saw a lot of that. And for me, it's just about reading what it says in there, try to confirm it or disprove it. It's the same kind of like a scientific method, which you would take. And I guess I'm taking a scientific method towards the Bible, or I did take a scientific method towards my understanding of what I felt like I believed. And so I'll go more into that later on. Hopefully you guys, please subscribe. Please tap the bell for all notifications. And my Twitter handle for the channel is down here at the bottom. Make sure to follow me there. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask for the show, anything you guys would like, a special request where you wanted us to break down or want me to try to put together a video on, please let me know. Anything that you're curious about. So that said, hopefully you guys have a good one. All praises to the Most High.